Ram Gandhi used to talk to me about him, but I had not met him for a long time. But through your friends, you create a world of your own. So Gopal Gandhi existed in my world for a long time because of Ram. Of course, Peter is very, very dear to me. And I can tell you, I am very happy that he accepted the post of director of Shimla Institute. I had to do a lot of persuading him to do so, and then he accepted it. And I am also one of those who fought for keeping that Shimla Institute according to the desire of Radhakrishnan for scholars. Otherwise, it would have become another five-star hotel if we had left it to the government of India. We had to really sign and go and meet people, and I joined them all. And I'm fortunate to speak here since I'm not keeping well. They decided to do it in Bangalore, and I'm happy that both of them have come here to felicitate me. I have been, in a strange way, blessed by Radhakrishnan. I first saw him in Shimoga, my hometown. There was a huge crowd. Thousands of people came to hear him in a Maidan. And he came in his car and got down, took the mic, and spoke just for a few minutes. It was like a poem to me, And what he said was, as he was coming on the road, he saw some women carrying pots of water on their head. But they walked with such grace, with their arms like a dancer. And then he remembered Akka Mahadevi, the great woman poet who came from Shimoga. I was then 17 years, but also a socialist. And I said this philosopher should not talk about the grace and beauty of women carrying water from a river or a tank home. But then it took a long time for me to realize that it is sad that they have to do this work, and at the same time that they are graceful and very beautiful. To combine the two, it took a long time. And I remember that feeling as Radhakrishnan spoke, and he moved me, but at the same time moved me this way. And then I came to Maharaja's College as a student. Everyone talked about Radhakrishnan being one of the teachers in Maharaja's College, along with Professor Hiryanna. They had a very great friendship between the two. And Professor Hiryanna has just left 2 books. He stayed where he was, but he is known all over the world. And Radhakrishnan went all over the world, and they were great friends. And I'm told that one influenced the other, and Radhakrishnan took a lot from Hiryanna, who was a very deep scholar in Sanskrit and in Vedanta. And then afterwards, because of Professor Gopal, the son of Radhakrishnan, I went to the Central University of Hyderabad for a whole month as a Radhakrishnan professor. And then luck took me to that great Oxford University, All Souls College, where Radhakrishnan was professor. So I had to deliver a series of lectures for a whole month in the name of Radhakrishnan. And here I am doing it for the great institute Shimla, which has a man like Gopal Gandhi as its chairman and Peter as its director. I'm very happy. Today I have taken up a subject on which I have spoken quite often, and I am going to make a proper paper of it after I record what I say and then edit it properly and then give it to him. This is how I feel more at home when I speak on a subject on which I can think on my legs. What it is to write in a regional language, it is a very odd question, because Shakespeare wrote in a regional language. Dante wrote in a regional language. Milton wrote in a regional language. And Kuvempu wrote in a regional language. Pampa wrote in a regional language. And even now, great books in English are written by people who can think of English as a regional language. There's no doubt about it. It has to be that kind of a feeling. That's why, whether it is from America, it has the stamp of a particular region on what they write if they are good. So far as creativity is concerned, being regional is not a limitation. But in a world of commerce, it looks like a limitation because we can't go far beyond a certain border. But that doesn't matter because when Shakespeare wrote his great plays, the very rich in England spoke French at home. And the meat was always had French names, whereas the animal was called in Anglo-Saxon. Because the peasants were British and those who ate were, and that is true even today, so it doesn't matter. So I have this kind of a feeling because when I started writing, did I have a choice? Yes, many of us writers in Kannada thought they had a choice. Kuvempu began to write in English, our great poet who wrote Ramayana Darshanam and those two great novels, began to write in English, and he met James Cousins and showed him his English poems, which are published now. They are as good as what a student in England would also write because he had taught himself English well and wrote grammatically correct. And such people can be always praised. You write good English. You see, he wrote good English. But then James Cousins said, it is not enough. You should write like Tagore in your own language. And when I speak today, I have this great man in mind because of, let me develop it in a particular manner, to make my point. India had a great literary figure in the past in Kalidasa, because Sanskrit was a pan-Indian language known only to the educated, but it was pan-Indian. So he was a literary figure because in every language, when Pampa in my language begins to write in the 10th century, he has his model in Kalidasa. He wants to write like Kalidasa. So Sanskrit was there as a model, particularly Kalidasa, because he is the first great literary figure. After that, India had another great literary figure, and that was Tagore. In the sense that all Indian writers tried to take the spirit of Tagore into their writings. And what is remarkable is, Tagore did not write in a pan-Indian language. He wrote in a regional language. And here is a magical thing that happens because of the independence struggle and the age of Gandhi and so on, that a regional writer like Tagore becomes what Kalidasa was, who wrote in a cosmopolite language, which was known all over India. And hence, Tagore gave the hope to every Indian writer. It was not necessary in the past, but was necessary after the British came to India, that even if you write in a regional language like Bengali, mind you, Bengali is not as ancient as Tamil, and Bengali is not as populous as Hindi. Hindi has more number. It's a small regional language in that sense, compared to these two. But he could make that kind of an impact. Of course, English helped him because he was translated into English, and sometimes very badly by himself, and they had to be retranslated. But then it served the purpose. But let me tell you, there were people all over India who learned Bengali in order to translate them. There were many in Karnataka. More than Tagore, it was Sharat Babu, whom everyone translated. And nobody thought that Sharat was a Bengali novelist. The Andhra people thought that he was a Telugu novelist. So that was possible at one time. And that is the kind of thing which is not happening now, as you know, as much as it did at one time. But there are bilingual writers who are very good. For instance, our Ramanujan was a good bilingual writer. He wrote in English as well as in Kannada. He wrote well in both the languages. And the Russian novelist Nabokov was a great bilingual writer, wrote in Russian as well as English. There are many examples of this kind, but they are rare examples. Because, you know, I learned English, but I can tell you even now, when I use English at a certain point of importance given to the language, I find it very difficult to switch on to Kannada. And when I am writing a novel in Kannada, it's difficult for me to switch on into English. I make even mistakes in English. I really believe that it is very difficult to be perfectly bilingual. But some people manage to be. It is written in Kannada. It is a book to guide writers in Kannada with the model of Sanskrit. But very careful, because if Sanskrit becomes the only model, then the indigenous character of Kannada will be lost. So it's a difficult kind of a text because it tries to tell you what kind of a mixture of Kannada and Sanskrit would be the right language for expressing your very subtle emotions. So it is a search for a desi, an indigenous idiom, without giving up the marga, and that is the great way of Sanskrit. So that was Indian genius. So we lived as Indians and also at the same time developed a certain language for Kannada. And also Kannada is a country also, then, in the 9th century. And this man defines a language for the first time. If Sanskrit is defined, then it is called Deva Bhasha. Asetu Himachal. It has no boundary. Whereas Kannada has a boundary. He says from Godavari to Kaveri. The language spoken from Godavari to Kaveri, from Kaveri to Godavari. So he limits it. But while limiting it, this is something, that my friend Subarna, writing on it, has revealed. He limits it geographically, but not for its content or its quality. He says that it reflects the world in it and is a world by itself. So it has both the qualities. It reflects the world, but is a world by itself. Now Dante later on, writes a kind of a thesis saying, why we should write in the language of the people rather than in the classical language. But Dante, when he does it, he writes it in the classical language, but not in the language in which he wrote his poem. Milton has another text of that kind, and he also wrote it in Latin. And as you know, Newton wrote in Latin, but Darwin wrote in English. I always think it's a very important fact. One who wanted to make an impact on the whole community wrote in English, Darwin. Whereas Newton wrote in Latin. So this went on, whereas here is a text which is in Kannada. And he takes a lot from Gandhi and Bana, two great Sanskrit scholars who wrote Kavyadarshan. What are the faults in a poem, what are the qualities in a poem. He takes, but it's not a translation. Because he takes 30% of that, but 70% is his own. So in a way, that's again a very interesting thing about this text. He says, look at Tamil and Kannada. Tamil is more ancient than Kannada. When Tamil took its script from Brahmi, it took only those scripts necessary for speaking, writing Tamil, 26. Whereas after 2 centuries, when Kannada took script from Brahmi, it took all the Brahmi script, all those which are there in Hindi and Sanskrit, all the script is there, but not all the script is necessary for writing or speaking Kannada. And hence, guess what happened? The capacity to receive from other languages increased within Kannada. I can easily write Clinton, but Tamils can't write Clinton. It is Clinton. And hence, since you can take any word from anywhere, because all the phonetic scripts are there, Kannada could develop in a different way from Tamil. Tamil has its own glory because it keeps very pure to its roots, but whereas Kannada used to grow, take things from other languages and so on. Before Kaviraj Marga, there is no Kannada literary text, but he takes many examples from literary texts, and so we have to presume there was some literature before him in Kannada. But he says that much of it is bad because it is too much of the here, there, in small places and so on. And so it doesn't have an all India, an all Karnataka character at all. So he wants a language which would have a character of being the language of Karnataka. Here is Manu, who keeps telling this story, and then Subban also says this. When Nebrija, he was a contemporary of the Queen Isabella in Spain. And 2 people go to Isabella. One was Columbus. He wanted to extend the empire, and so he says, give me enough funds so that I will expand your empire. But Nebrija says, what is the good of having an empire when people don't speak the same language? One part of your empire doesn't understand the other. And so let me create a grammar, he said. So Nebrija created an empire because he created a grammar. Columbus created an empire, tried to create an empire by extending the boundaries. So language again is something which creates a country. And Kaviraj Marka says in the 10th century, Kannadadol bhavitamada janapadam. That means our people are imagined in the Kannada language. So it doesn't take a religion to define Karnataka. It doesn't take a race to define Karnataka. He takes a language to define Karnataka. And the author is Sri Vijaya, who is a Jain. And Nrupatunga is a Hindu. And Subban has an interpretation for this book which is very interesting. It is called Kaviraja Marga. It means the Marga of a Kaviraja, the king of poets. Or Kavi's Rajamarga, the royal path for a poet. It can be read either this way or that way. And he is trying to give this Bhavitamada, that which is imagined in Kannada, a certain characteristic. And then he defines what is the great characteristic of Kannada people. I am very proud of it, that he said so. Tolerance, he says. We try to do it. I have often said it, in our own time, our great actor, who is now no more, Rajkumar did it. Rajkumar as a great actor spoke a Kannada which was slightly artificial. Literary, that's what I mean, artificial. It doesn't artificial, but slightly literary. Which made it possible for a man in Gulbarga, Bijapur, South Canara, anywhere to relate one to the other. So here is a film actor who has done the same thing. And Kaviraj Marga is also trying to define that language which should become the all Karnataka language. So there lies a foundation for a regional language to become a universal language in its content and in its intent. But regional, it doesn't matter. And then make all the deal with Sanskrit, which was there as a language of the whole country, which I think is a remarkable thing that happened in Karnataka. Whereas Tamil took, I think, a slightly different way. Shilapatikaram it begins, but it began to search of its own roots and so it may be a strength there and a weakness also. Here it may be a strength as well as a weakness, but there it is. Here is a language trying to define itself. Now that's why it is possible for me to speak in English, like Milton had to speak in Latin, defending English. So